Hey everybody, it's Craig here, and in this video I'm going to walk you through adjustments in Adobe Camera Raw. Now we're looking at a raw image right out of camera right here, so I'm going to walk you through each segment. Now this is just a basic sort of walkthrough of Adobe Camera Raw, and in other videos I'll give you a more in-depth overview. Anyway, let's get started. So I shot this at 5400 Kelvin with a tint of +5, and I shot this on the Canon 5D Mark III. And the lens I used was the 135 f2, and I shot this at f4. You can see all that information if you look at the upper right. You'll see right here we have our histogram, and then we also have the f-stop, which is f4. The shutter speed was 160, the ISO, and the 135 was the lens. Now we can make some adjustments to the white balance. Because this is a raw image, we could say daylight. We could just have some quick presets here if you just want to go through them and see if maybe the white balance was something better than what you shot it at. Now I know the particular lights I was using, I'm pretty comfortable shooting at 5400 Kelvin, so I set it in camera. So I set my camera for 5400 Kelvin, and it's pretty good right off the bat. Now I also use a color checker, but in this case I'm just going to do it by eye. And let's go over some of our settings. So we have our temperature. If I go left, you can see that cools it down. You can see if I go right, it sort of warms it up, it adds a little bit yellow, so we're going to go back to 5400 there. And then the tint, it's going to make some changes as well. So if I go to the left, you can see it gets a little more green, to the right a little more magenta. Let's go with it about +8. Now our exposure, I'm pretty happy with our exposure, but I'll show you what it does. If I go left, you can see the histogram, it gets darker. If I go right, it gets brighter, but we'll go with the default setting, ±10, that's fine. I don't usually add contrast at this stage. The highlights, sometimes I'll recover a little bit of the highlights, so let's take that down to about -20. The shadows, I think the shadows are fine in this particular image. The white balance, or the white point and the black point, I don't usually set. The clarity, I also leave for portraits. And vibrance, I don't often add that for portraits. If anything, I'll take the saturation down a bit on a portrait. Now let's go to the next spot here. It's the tone curve. I don't adjust the tone curve at this point in the retouch. I do that in Photoshop. Now we go here, sharpening. Again, I don't do any sharpening or noise reduction to raw images. Now this is our HSL grayscale, which stands for hue, saturation, and luminance scale. So I don't usually do too much to this unless the skin tones are way off. And then what I would do is I would probably bring the reds, oranges, and yellows down by about -2, but I probably wouldn't do too much to it at this point, because again, I can do that in Photoshop. Now this is our highlights and our shadows. Now you can do some color grading here, but again I often leave that to Photoshop, but I'll show you how this works. We can just boost up our saturation. Now this is our highlights. Now if you look here, often in movies you'll often see a little bit yellow in the highlights and a little bit blue in the shadows. I'm going to just bring this down. So say we bring this in at maybe 5%. I'll bring this up, and now this is going to be our shadows. So we could go with a little bit of a cyan to like a blue. Again, and then we can bring that down to about +6. Now if I hit the P key, it's the preview key. You can see that goes back to no adjustments. And then if I hit it again, we go back to some adjustments. So you can see the effect that we had there. Like I said, I don't usually do this at this stage. I just want to show you how this works. We'll keep on going here. All right, our next tab, this is where if your image is a little askew, say you didn't shoot it completely level, you could hit auto. You could try to make some level corrections there. Also, you could click here to remove some chromatic aberration. Some lenses have that. Also, you can enable lens profile corrections here, and you can see and recognize the lens I used. Now we go along here. Here's the haze grain. I don't use that. Now this is where if you did a custom color profile with an X-ray color checker or a spider checker, you could set that right here. So that's basically this column. Now I'm going to stop at this point. I don't want to give you too much information and get you overwhelmed. Go through this video again if I went too quickly. Also, this is a perfect time to sign up for one of my live retouching webinars. I'll have a link pop up on the screen. Click on that link and you can register for a retouching webinar where we can interact in real time. So go ahead, click on that link if you want to be involved in a retouching webinar, and I'll see you in the next video. And before you go too, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and share this video on social media. All right, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.